Hey, welcome into the Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside my partner, Mike Evans. Super Bowl 59 in the books, a beatdown of epic proportion as the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. What a glorious Sunday it was. Mike, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm with you. And if you're a member of Chiefs Kingdom, sorry, millions of people tuned in just to hate watch the Chiefs and rooted for them to lose. And boy, did they lose. And I know the final score, Stink, was 40-22, but in my mind, this was a 40-6 football game before a couple of garbage time touchdowns. So it was a complete beatdown. The question that I think we all have for you is, why? How did it happen?
Yeah. You know what's funny, Mike? And, allow me to gloat. Because I get this on social media is an interesting place, right? And, I like to spar. I like to mix it up a little bit with people on social media. And, I was, if nothing, I was an absolute dick when it came to, just my hatred for Kansas City and getting under the Kansas City Chiefs fans a little bit and how soft they were all week. And I actually had people on social media that were Chief fans complaining about officiating. That's rich. Kansas City Chief fans complaining about the calls that Philadelphia was getting. Woo! That's crazy time. But here's the thing. I want all you young whippersnappers, all you guys that want to call me an old head, game pass you by, you don't know anything. Let me just tell you something about football that will never change, okay? Just mark this down. Maybe you write it down. Oh, you kids don't write things down. Speak it into your cell phone. Put it in your notes file in your cell phone. Listen, if you can dominate the line of scrimmage, if you can whoop that ass on the line of scrimmage, you are going to win a lot of football games, regardless of who your quarterback is. Yeah, you can have the best quarterback in the world. Is Patrick Mahomes the GOAT? If he wins 3 in a row, is he better than Tom Brady? No, he's not. But here's the deal. You whip that ass up front, guess what? I don't care how good your quarterback is. And we can go all the way back to the New England Patriots and their 2 losses in Super Bowls to the Giants. What was the factor that they lost those games on? It was the superior pass rush and defensive line the Giants had versus those Patriots teams. And that's exactly what the difference was for the Philadelphia Eagles when they beat down Kansas City on Sunday.
So let's go a little deeper into that because it's obvious that was the key. But why? Why does that make such a difference if you can get home with 4 guys and you don't have to blitz? They did not blitz once during that game. And yet they sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times, the most times he's ever been sacked in a game. What are the benefits for a defense and what are the obstacles for an offense to face when your front 4 is dominating like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, if your front 4 can dominate, and everybody will look at that as like, hey, it's a game plan to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And to me, I would say, well, listen, that's great. I don't know how many Jalen Carters are floating around out there, right? I don't know how, when you look at what they were able to do, that's big time. It's a big time performance, Mike. And, and you got to tip your hat to the Philadelphia Eagles because they were awesome. They were incredible. What it allows you to do as a defense, it allows you to play that shell coverage. It allows you to play zone coverage. And one of the things that Philadelphia did, I thought they really mixed up their coverage with their pass rush well. There was a real symbiotic relationship there in that they disrupted routes, right? Press, disrupt the route, get your hands on the tight end before that tight end releases on a linebacker, on whoever has that coverage area. And because they were able to disrupt those routes early, they took away that first option of Patrick Mahomes. So he didn't have that quick 3-yard dump off to complete so that, that those receivers could catch and run after that. And then that allowed that pass rush to get to Patrick Mahomes. So that was really the difference. But you look at those situations, Mike, and I had said this on the podcast last week. I had said, listen, man, if you can take away that quick passing game, and if I were the Philadelphia Eagles, I would just say, hey, listen, we'll let you run the ball on us.
Right.
We'll let you run it down our throats. We'll invite you to run it. And ultimately, Kansas City didn't take advantage of that. Now, I know what a lot of the critics will say, or I know a lot of my people will say, or offensive people will say, or just people in general will say, well, they didn't convert any third downs, so they really couldn't run the ball. And then they looked up and they found themselves down 17, and it really wasn't a chance to run the ball. And to those people, I would say, up yours. That's what I would say. Up yours. Because when you get sacked like that and you give up pressures like that, hey, it's not just your offensive line is bad. They were bad. I'll give it to you. They were bad. But that comes down to your coaching and your quarterback play. Can you get the ball out of your hands quickly? Can you dump one off quickly? Can you get the ball out quickly? And then ultimately, hey, we can't run the ball. Okay, well, I get that. But what's the remedy for getting your ass kicked up front, right? We got to take some of the starch out of these sons of bitches, right? And they got their ears pinned back and they are just coming downhill. So how do you contend with that? Well, it's like if you're getting a diet of cover 4 or cover 2 or cover 3 or cover 1, there's cover 1 beaters. Right? We're running mesh concepts. We're condensing formations, and we're running one guy from this side, one guy from that side, and we're picking people off, right? We're running the mesh stuff, right? Oh, how are we doing, cover 3? We're running 4 verts, right? We're going to attack the safety in the middle of the field, make him choose a side. Then we're going to throw the seams on the other side, right? Like there's different ways to attack different coverages. When it comes to the run game, Mike, if I'm getting a steady diet of guys moving up the field, just coming hell-bent for election, rushing the passer, hey, let's open up our trap game, right? Let's open up our wham game. Let's invite a defensive tackle up the field. You set him, boom, you leave, right. And all of a sudden somebody from an ear hole from the outside, a tight end comes racing across and smashes that guy in the ear hole, and we cut up underneath that. Or maybe we motion a tight end out of the back or outside the numbers, right? He comes back into the formation, bam, pins the defensive end. We toss the ball outside. We run the pin and pull game. We do some things to basically take the starch out of that defensive line and use their aggressiveness against them. And I don't want to hear.
Sounds like you're second guessing Andy Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid had a piss poor game. Andy Reid got out coached at every level. And it's the same thing I said a couple of years ago when they lost the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in that game, Mahomes only got sacked 3 times, but he was under constant duress. But in that game against Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers were basically saying, listen, dude, we will give you 6 yards of carry if you want it. If you want to take it, we'll give it to you. Now, in this game, it was a little bit out of hand early. I understand that. And they tried a couple of runs, but they really never adjusted any of their running games. So, yeah, I think that Vic Fangio absolutely dismantled Andy Reid in that game. And I had the feeling, I picked on this show, I picked the Eagles to blow them out. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it had to do with the way that Vic Fangio, as a head coach and defensive coordinator / play caller, operated when he was in Denver as the head coach. And he always was able to shut down or eliminate some of that offense of the Kansas City Chiefs, even when they were superior in every way, shape, form, and fashion to the Denver Broncos. He had a good system against them, and I figured with much better players, because I thought the Philadelphia Eagles D-line, linebacking core, and secondary were better than the Kansas City Chiefs at all 3 levels of their defense. I thought they had an advantage there. I didn't think they had that much of an advantage, because I'm with you. That game, there was a couple courtesy touchdowns at the end of that game, but that game wasn't close. It reminded me of all those kind of 80s and 90s beatdowns in the Super Bowl. I was part of one in Washington when we were beating the just absolute snot out of the Buffalo Bills, and they got a couple of drives late, a couple of courtesy touchdowns late. We ended up beating them 37-24, but it wasn't close. That Buffalo Bills against the Dallas Cowboys, some of those matchups, the 49ers against the Broncos, or the 49ers against the Chargers back in the day, the San Diego Chargers at the time, those kind of epic beatdowns. That's what this game reminded me of.
So, okay, we're praising the Eagles defense. The offense, Jalen Hurts, how does football America now look at Jalen Hurts now that he's a champion, now that he's a Super Bowl MVP?
Yeah, is he a top 5 quarterback in your mind? I mean, see, here's some of the things that I think that we don't give credit to guys for. Like Jalen Hurts, like we always think about making decisions in the pocket, Mike. And that's legit. Mm-hmm. And he makes those decisions in the pocket. He just doesn't do it as often as a guy like Patrick Mahomes has to do it, right? But he makes those decisions, right? He looks at the front side, like if you're checking out, hey man, we got a too high safety look, and I want to see where safety rotation is, right? So does the safety to the boundary rotate to the middle of the field? That means I got one-on-one on the outside, or does that safety rotate to the boundary? Meaning that's a double team. Now I have to look to the opposite side of the football field in my progression over there. So, like, he's got to make those decisions. Like every quarterback has to make those decisions. It's the frequency with which he makes those decisions is probably less because they're so reliant on Saquon Barkley. But being reliant on Saquon Barkley means what? I got to be unselfish and be willing to say, hey, that's the way our offense operates. I'm a young guy, right? I'm probably not going to get the shine that I deserve because we're reliant so much on Saquon Barkley. But I'm okay with that. I'll hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. But listen, again, going back to coaching, even to Kellen Moore, who's their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore was known in this league as a guy that wanted to air it out. Mm-hmm. He comes to Philadelphia, and Nick Sirianni says, that's not how we're built. We're going to run the snot out of the ball. And so you develop into that run-first football team. And for all those people that say, well, Kansas City couldn't run it because they weren't getting any yards per carry, and they weren't converting third downs. Okay, well, really? Yeah. Because Saquon Barkley rushed it 26 times and averaged 2.6 yards per carry. He didn't run it very well, and yet he was able to get his carries. 26 carries, 57 yards, 2.3. I gave him too much. He was only 2.3 yards per carry. Oh, but yeah, they couldn't do it because they couldn't convert on third down. The Chiefs on third down, Michael, 3 for 11. The Philadelphia Eagles on third down, 3 for 12. The Chiefs were better on third down than the Philadelphia Eagles were on third down. How about that? But I'm just telling you, you can sit there and say they couldn't do it. But one team was committed to it. Yep. One team wanted nothing to do with it. One team wanted that business. They were all about that business. Let's go, man. Stand toe to toe. You got to always be careful. I always say this. This is like a bar fight, okay? When you walk into a bar and you're looking to fight somebody, this goes back to, my Idaho days when I was young and wild, right? You walk into a bar.
How many fights did you get in?
You're looking to fight, right? You're looking to fight somebody. First thing you want to do is check their ears. If that dude that you're ready to fight has cauliflower ears, you say, you know what? My fault. Let me buy you a drink. That was completely 100% on me. Now, if he's got ears like mine, let's roll. Let's throw it down. Let's see who's the baddest guy in the bar. I guarantee if you got cauliflower ears, you're all about that business. You want that business. And if you don't have cauliflower ears, you want none of that business. The Philadelphia Eagles came into that bar fight with cauliflower ears. They're like, let's go. We're all about that business. And they absolutely opened a can of whoop ass on the Philadelphia Eagles.
You have been consistent. I want to give you a chance to take a little victory lap because you've been consistent over the last couple of years saying that there's no more talented team in the NFL on both sides of the ball than the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. But this was the year they put it all together. This is the year they got over the top. And I can't help but look at the arrival of Saquon Barkley and think cause and effect. So when you look back on it, what exactly did Saquon Barkley bring beyond the obvious?
Okay. So I think there's a couple of things that probably are true about Saquon, just because I know Saquon a little bit. I'm not going to say we're buddies, but I did a ton of Giants games when Saquon was with the Giants, tons of them. So I talked to him on a weekly, Yeah. You know, I had one season where I did 5 or 6 Giants games. So I did a ton of their games. One, that dude is connective tissue. That dude is just one of those guys that connects the locker room. And I've said this before, locker rooms in the NFL aren't segregated, but they are compartmentalized. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes if I play O-line and you play cornerback, for instance, our paths may never cross during 2 months, like a month or 2 months. Or like we may never really actually connect or see each other or talk to each other. You go to your meeting room, I go to my meeting room. You go to your place on the practice field, I go to my place on the practice field. It's like there is that sensation there. And there are some guys that just connect the locker room together. They're just that guy, right? They're just like, they've got that vibe to them, right? And so Saquon certainly has that aspect of you know, that kind of character and that kind of relationship building aspect to him that I think is real. The other thing is you have to have a team that is willing to be sacrificial, that is willing, you know, I say this about professional sports. One of the things I love about professional sports is, other than raising your kids, it's one of the only places on planet Earth where you celebrate somebody else's success like it's your own. Yeah. You know, and we work in the radio business, right? Or you work anywhere in America. And, you know, like somebody gets a raise, like you get a raise or you move to a better show or whatever, right? And to your face, everybody would be like, man, good for you. Hey, congratulations. Mm-hmm. Nobody works harder than you. You deserve it. And behind your back, you're like, that's some bitch. That should have been my job. Like, he doesn't do anything. Like, you know, right. You know how corporate America is, right? And I will take you back to the NFC Championship. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Like, go back and just kind of find the YouTube clip. Okay? Go find the YouTube clip. Everybody can do that. Saquon Barkley is out. The Philadelphia Eagles are absolutely trouncing the Commanders. One of his backups, kid by the name of Shipley, breaks one for about 70 yards. Gets tackled, I don't know, inside the 10. Who comes running from the sideline? No helmet. He's out of the game. Saquon Barkley meets him on the field to celebrate that 70-yard run like Saquon just ran it, like he broke it. Man, he was so genuinely excited for that guy. Hell, go all the way back to Alabama when Jalen Hurts gets benched for Tua.
Great point.
He gets benched for Tua, and Tua drives him down and throws a touchdown. And Jalen Hurts, I think most guys would be moping on the sideline, feeling sorry for themselves. Jalen Hurts runs down the sideline to celebrate with Tua. Like, it's just special. And I think that's one of the most endearing qualities that I've watched of Saquon all season long, celebrating his teammates, getting excited for other guys' touchdowns. I mean, you think about this now, Mike. How many rushing touchdowns did Jalen Hurts have during the season? How many times did Jalen Hurts poach a rushing touchdown from Saquon Barkley? Because why?
6, 8 times maybe?
I think it's 10.
10? Okay.
But because they've got the tush push. And ultimately, what if Saquon rushed for the 2,000 yards that he had? Hold on, really quick, while we're talk amongst yourself really quick.
Little efforting music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're looking up touchdowns?
I'm looking up Saquon Barkley stats this year, okay? Really quick.
We need a statistician on hand for this podcast.
We do. For this type of thing, we definitely need this. Is this mic on? So, come on. Give me the year by year. Okay, here we go. He had 13 touchdowns. He had 2,005 yards and 13 touchdowns. What if he had 2,005 yards and 23 touchdowns?
Does he win the MVP?
MVP?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, he didn't get one first place vote, which I think is ridiculous when we talk about MVP voting. Ridiculous. And I do want to ask you about the Lamar versus, because I don't think we've had that conversation, Lamar versus Josh Allen when it comes down to the MVP, because we didn't have that conversation
No,
yet, right?
and we'll get into all that stuff later this week. But
okay, we'll do that later this week.
But more Super Bowl intensive today.
Okay, great. But what about, like, would Saquon have garnered a couple of, MVP votes?
Yeah.
Had he had 23 touchdowns as opposed to 13?
Sure.
And over 2,000 yards. I think so. I think he deserved them anyway. But, like, there are those guys that just have that ability to connect and to, and to play the game for what feels like a bigger purpose to me.
Final thought on the Eagles, and I want to finish up putting a bow on the Chiefs season as well. But Nick Sirianni's role in all of this, because come on, Mark, at the end of last year, the Eagles had collapsed. It seemed like Sirianni was going to, if he didn't survive the offseason, if he didn't survive last season, he was certainly going to begin this season directly on the hot seat. And yet somehow he survived and thrived.
Yeah.
How?
Remember, he was 2-2.
Yeah.
And then they went, 15-1 or something down the stretch. Like, unbelievable what they were able to do. And Nick Sirianni certainly doesn't get the credit he deserves, right?
Right.
Because, he's fighting with the fans and he's a little bit, he comes off sometimes a little bit of a meathead or whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, guy knows his offense, right? Is part of the game plan. And, in game planning every week, he knows exactly what he wants. And think about that. Okay, I'll just give you some things to think about. Kellen Moore comes in with this kind of passing, he's more known as a passing guy than he's a running guy. That's not what we do here. We got Saquon. Change your offense. We're going to run the ball more. I mean, again, 2.3 yards a carry and you get it 25 times in the Super Bowl. Come on now. Come on. 3 for 12 on third downs. You get it 25 times. You touch the ball 31 times. That to me is that I know who I am. I know what our identity is, and I'm going to adhere to it. That comes from the head coach. That doesn't come from offense coordinators. That comes from the head coach. Okay, so there's that. Then I go back to the first year Nick Sirianni's there. He is the head coach and the play caller. I do one of their games, week 2 against San Francisco. Right? Shane Steichen's his offense coordinator. They end up going 5-2 to start the season, 7 games in. And Sirianni goes, I can't call plays and manage the game at the same time. I'm really struggling. And I don't feel connected. I want to connect. I want to have that kind of connection with the coaches and the players as they come off the field, both offensively and defensively. I feel like that's my job. And I'm so buried into the play sheet that I'm not actually watching or I'm not observing enough of what's going on, who needs to be picked up, who needs to be cussed out, who needs to be whatever, right? And so I'm going to go ahead with humility in mind and go, I can't do them both. Shane Steichen take over for me. They go to the playoffs that year, right? And they've gone through different defensive coordinators, different offensive coordinators. And I will tell you this about Nick Sirianni. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for being a really good coach, but there are very few guys that I watch and I've been around Philly. I've done a bunch of their games, man. He's completely connected to his players.
Yep.
Like, he walks into the meeting room when you meet with him, he's got a Jalen Hurts t-shirt on. Oh yeah, we designed this, and I designed it. I had it made for everybody in the They do it like there's just little stupid things that they do that he does that connects him and bonds him to his players, right? And, we can look at those things and go, oh, come on, guys, stop it. But I think he does enough to where his players really respect the relational aspect of what they're doing. And so I think it's pretty cool, Mike.
Well, congratulations to the Eagles. Do you see potential? Everyone, as soon as you win a championship, everyone wants to start looking ahead. And can they be a dynasty? Do you see that kind of potential for the Eagles?
Oh, they certainly have the talent.
Yeah.
I think ultimately there's 3 things that come to mind, like putting the dynasty together. Okay. So 1, they were incredibly healthy all season long.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we saw how it derailed San Francisco last year. I mean, they were so injured last year. They ended up winning 6 games. So health, we saw how it derailed the Detroit Lions and their defense last year. Just health is a big issue. So they were very fortunate. You can't guarantee health. So that's going to be one thing. I think the other thing is, how do you deal with success?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you deal with it? And I've always said success is hard. Like, it's been hard in my life. I've learned a lot more about myself in tough times than I have in successful times, because in successful times, I think oftentimes you're too busy patting yourself on the back. And the hard times is where you learn a lot about yourself. And then human nature. I think the thing that always impressed me about the New England Patriots or even the Kansas City Chiefs is how you're not sated by success.
Right.
Like, you have so much success, eventually you're like, hey, man, like, I don't want to get this extra rep in, or I don't want to study, or I got this. It's not a big deal. Or, hey, man, I want mine. I want to get paid now. I deserve to get paid. And you get a lot of that unselfishness. Like we just talked about Saquon running down the sideline and celebrating somebody else's success.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that something you're willing to do? You know what I forgot about? Is this still?
I know you're looking for the fireworks and everything.
Yeah, because I did this and I thought, what do I do when
I don't know? You push buttons. We couldn't even get you on before this podcast because you didn't have the right buttons pushed.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Maybe this is my laptop. That was on my thingamajigger.
Okay. Well, you might
iPad.
Might want to go back to the thingamajigger.
Maybe it's an iPad thing.
Okay. Right. All right. I'm going to regain control of this right at the end. So, great breakdown of the game. Great breakdown of the Super Bowl. Most watched Super Bowl of all time. 126 million people, which is phenomenal.
Because I think most people were watching it like me. You're either a Chiefs fan, you're watching it, or you're a Chiefs hater and you're watching it, and you're reveling in every mistake and every sack and every when Patrick Mahomes went off the sideline earlier, like this.
How many? I will end with this. How many people out there watching right now? You were at a Super Bowl party where there were people who aren't necessarily the biggest football fans. Were like, this is boring. This game's boring. And you were like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. I'm enjoying every bit of this because we're watching the Chiefs get smoked. How many people felt that way and were at a party? Because I know I was at that party and I was like, oh, you don't understand. This is awesome. This is entertaining. I can't get enough of this.
I was exhausted. I watched that game like the Broncos were playing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Ultimately for me, it wasn't that I was an Eagles fan as much as it was I was hating on the Chiefs. Right. Absolute jealousy and hatred and everything else for the Chiefs. And I couldn't have been happier watching them get their ass kicked.
And Chiefs fans, don't get upset. You wear this like a badge of honor, okay? The fact that so many people who didn't have a rooting interest tuned in just to root against you, that is something you should be proud of.
That's an achievement.
Don't get butthurt about it. Please, Chief fan. Act like you've been there before.
Right. That's it. For Chief fan, that's an achievement.
Yeah.
Like,
come on.
Crying out loud. We got all of America to hate our guts. You should be like proud fathers right now.
Absolutely. Well, hey, that was fun. Now we get to move on to what many people out there feel is more fun than the actual regular season, and that's the off season. So we can't wait to jump into that starting the next time we talk.
All right, we will do that later on in the week. For everybody involved in the Stinkin' Truth podcast, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for downloading, for sharing, for doing all the things that you guys do. Make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. For Mike, I am Mark. We'll talk to you guys later on in the week on the Stinkin' Truth podcast.